I don't like it, but I can kind of see a vision. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do mean to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. You know, fun fact, here we are to do chapter 217 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse. When you can already tell I'm in a better mood because I didn't actually say the series name this time. But this chapter, this chapter has me feeling a certain type of way, and not in like the best way, certain type of way. It's like, it's almost. This is the potential man of plot twist. This is the biggest potential man of plot twist. And let me tell you something right now, before we even get into the chapter. In order for Nakaba to make this work, already, before this twist, and before last chapter's twist, I'd say Arthur, as an antagonist, and the potential he had, and where he was just generally, I'd say he was already, like, right up here, right? Like he was good. He was real good. In fact, dare I say, in terms of, like, major antagonists, I'm talking, like, major antagonists, not just, like, the antagonist for, like, an arc. Because, obviously, the best villain in the entire duology so far is Mael / Estarossa. Like, it's not really... Like, I mean, I've heard some people say Season 1 Hendrickson. I've heard some people say Fraudrin. But, like, I feel like it is Mael. But, notably, he was the antagonist for, like, maybe 20 chapters. So, like... It didn't really get too much time to be. So I'm talking like major antagonists, like an entire season long threat. So the real contestants are like the Demon King. Technically the Supreme Deity because of Cursed by Light. I suppose you could say Death Pierce because of the two-parter Grudge of Edinburgh. Then the Demon King, Supreme Deity. Hendrickson. There isn't really like an overarching... The Ten Commandments are kind of like a group anti-group. A group anti-group. What wonderful words. But essentially... In terms of the major, like, overarching antagonists who transcend just an arc or two, Arthur was already the best that the Seven Deadly Sins duology had to offer, but he didn't really have much competition. The twist from last chapter knocked Arthur all the way down here. Like he's off screen now. He was, like, here, and then he was down here. The twist from this chapter takes that and knocks it even lower. Like, legitimately, my hand is touching the floor right now. That's how low the twist of this chapter has knocked it. Just in terms of the twist itself. The potential of Arthur as an antagonist has also just dropped off a cliff because it's not even Arthur. Right? Like it's gone. It's gone. Right? Like it's gone, it's out of here. But the potential for the character who's been pretending to be Arthur to be Arthuring it. Like that has so many implications. It could raise the... Like, I don't know. I think the potential's now up here. Well, actually, no. Because the potential was already up here when it was just Arthur as an antagonist. We just need, like, backstory. We need stuff. Now the potential's, like... It's, like, dancing... It's, like, fluctuating around here. Like, one of the biggest issues with this potential man is that he's already potential man. And, like, that's really bad. And he's also a bum. That's like we're gonna have to go into it in depth in a couple different ways. So let's not waste more time. Let's hop right into chapter 217, the Eternal King. Real quick though, I do love this design. Like no matter how I feel about this thing as an antagonist, this design, especially with the one arm gauntlet, one arm not. And now you know what? That's the thing. The one thing I've seen, because I did end up perusing around a little bit after I recorded the live reaction. It is a 30-minute live reaction. You can check that out over on Patreon. Follow us $1 a month. You become a member for us. So it's $3 a month to check out the 30-minute live reaction. It was an interesting one because, as I mentioned in the live reaction last week on stream over on That Guy with the Controller, I did actually, because everyone's going crazy about the chapter, I did end up looking at the spoilers. I won't do that again though, just because it made the live reaction weird. But so I already knew the twist of this chapter. I knew who this was. So I think last chapter pretty heavily implied who it had to be. Unless it was like two people. It was either Chaos itself or the other guy. So, no matter what, things were already kind of set in stone. But last stream on That Guy with the Controller, I stream every Friday at 8 p.m. EST if you ever want to roll through and chat with your boy. Links in the description, and link on the channel, and link everywhere. So, follow your boy. But, that being the case, I had already kind of reviewed it. And the big thing that I've seen as I've looked around the community is that a lot of people are saying this does make more sense, but funnily enough, I half agree. It makes more sense, especially the reason I praise this gauntlet part of the design so much is because if you'll remember, in fact, if you'll remember, hold on, I know you'd have to say if you'll remember, I will go back and show you. I believe it's like 80s, it's in the late 80s. Let me see. Okay, no, it's a little bit earlier. Then it's got to be like here. Okay, it's even earlier than that. So it's early 80s. I thought it was late 80s. You see. Where is it? Okay, now this isn't where I get a clean shot of it. Let me go back and see if I can get a clean shotty waddy of it. But essentially, the gauntlet kind of spoiled who it was all the way back when the gauntlet first dropped. In fact, you can literally go back to my review, which is now years old at this point, where I point out, hey, that's kind of weird on the gauntlet. So it does make sense in one way, but it doesn't make sense in another. In fact, it raises more questions than it answers in many ways. But let me see. Is that it? Hold on. Let me stretch it out a little bit. Let me make sure that's it. Yep. Okay. So the twist was well foreshadowed. That's the main point of praise I will give this twist. Even if I'm not the biggest fan of it, the twist was very well foreshadowed. And what I mean well foreshadowed is look at this gauntlet. Look at this arm. Look at it. Look at it. Who's that? Who's that right there? On the hand? Huh? That's Kath. Why would Arthur be replicating Kath? I know Kath ate that arm, but why would he be replicating that? And there are a bunch of things, and that's why I'll go into like the way the twist works, even though I don't like it. But I see the potential of it. Like this is a very complicated chapter for your boy in particular. A very complicated chapter for your boy. But with it being the case, hopping into the chapter itself. Though I just want to give a quick laze to Nakaba and his freaking delicious designs here. Man, Nakaba, you're a monster in terms of creating monsters. But we cut into Camelotto, and we get to see the whole world itself. The whole world is spinning. AKA, they're back in the main room of Camelot, where the castle is held, and very specifically, we're in this tiny little spire right here. And we get to meet back with the 4 evils, or at least right now, 3 of the 4 evils. And we see that a certain fella says, "My own son warned me. He said you've been tricked. You must try to recall me." Ironside is now reflecting on the things he did while under the influence of that chaos sauce. It was mixing and spritzing all deep in his guts, in his belly, and he's thinking like, oh, I was a terrible person to my actual son this time, not the guy that I was going to try to make my actual son this time. Oh, no. And I do like that, right? Ultimately, while Ironside still isn't a nice guy, still isn't a good person, he's very much a I was just following orders kind of guy, considering the amount of atrocities he's willingly committed while laughing and gleeful before the chaos influence. Ironside's never been a good person. Never. Not like, I've said before, I'll say it, he slaughtered that caravan. Remember, Percival's royalty of some kingdom, Ironside didn't find that carriage randomly. He went and slaughtered them and took the baby for Diodora. Like, that's just law. I'm telling you, bro. That's how it is. That's how I promise you. I'm putting beans on it. Gosh darn it. He slayed them. And that was when he was a very young man. And then, of course, we've seen Ironside in the main narrative. He is gleefully willing to slaughter as many people as he wants. Ironside's not a good person. But, hold on. The reason this still works is because we know Ironside deeply cares for Diodora. His entire motivation is Diodora. He wanted to go to Camelot for Diodora and his wife. And he lost his wife, so he just said Diodora. So seeing him reflect on the idea that, like, I like, not even that I failed so hard that it made the one person I care about suffer deeply. And it's nice to see him literally just lay back and reflect on that. And I have to admit, his build is immaculate. I low-key want. This isn't the best shot of his build, though. We'll get to a better shot of his build. Him and Damon both. They're the dream build, dog. I need that. For real. Even the stash, it looks immaculate. But with it being the case, we see that Pelgard is also laid back with his big burly self and is like, why? Why did I forget it all? About my own wife. About Percival, too. That is a real good question. Except not really. But what it is actually really... Well, it's not even... It's funny in one way. And it's sad in a major way as well. Note who Pelgard mentions that he forgot. His wife, Fiona, and Percival. Now, I don't know about you, but doesn't that raise a question? Wait a second. Why does Pelgard serve Arthur? Oh, because of Fiona wanting to be in Camelot. Why does Fiona want to be in Camelot? Richard, their child, who perished at a young age due to horseback riding. At least from what Pelgard says here, why did I forget it all? He specifically mentions forgetting his wife. And, well, to be fair, though, in the panel, funnily enough, that's the man. Now, I wish I could go back in time and be like, you should have double reviewed that with the chapters you missed, you idiot. Because like one of the chapters I haven't reviewed, because I have a majority of Fortnights on the channel, but if anyone ever wants to do like a 1x1 read with me and see me progress in terms of the knowledge of the series and how much it's been out, unfortunately there are some chapters that are missing. And one of the chapters that is missing is the Infusion chapter, where Pelgard and Ironside became Chaos Knights. I should have gone back and reviewed that. Will I ever? Probably not. Probably not. I barely have enough days to upload my current review schedule. If certain things, like the reason Fortnights comes out on Sunday is because I review a lot of stuff now. But with it being the case, the reason that this is interesting is it implies that he still remembered Richard. But in that chapter, I almost want to go back and check. In that chapter, he asks who these people are. So he actually did forget. But I think it's interesting that he doesn't mention his real fake son. Or like his real son, as in like that was his biological son, but we know Richard of the Camelot is an illusion. He mentions his wife, because his wife is the motivation for serving Camelot in the first place. He doesn't care. Well, not that he doesn't care. He has moved on from Richard's passing. Fiona never did. And obviously, Pelgar's not going to move on from Fiona, his still living wife. So he feels guilt about forgetting her, and naturally forgetting Percival, because Percival essentially became Pelgar's real son. So poor Richard, man. Poor Richard. But with it being the case, we see that Beltreep, aka Damon, says, "Listen to you. Did you forget your obligation to his majesty? He deigned to grant us the very power of chaos, a mighty sword to protect what we hold dear." And speaking of the dream build, yo, peep Beltreep, bro. Look at the now, not to flex myself. Y'all may see me on video, may see me hit this one pose and be like, Pencil Man, that's decent enough, bro. Like, your gains are fine enough, but they ain't immaculate like that. And you're absolutely right. But I'm getting there, though. Hold on. Peep the build real quick. That's your boy right there. That's peep the build. Don't low key look look at the waist to back ratio, dog. Peep the back muscles. Is the brightness all the way up? Brightness is only halfway up. Peep the definition in the backy wacky, bro. Peep the definition in the backy wacky. Look at the spread. I do not know how to take a picture. Or I'm showing out my biceps at the same time. It's literally just a backpack. But like, look at that. Look at the gains, bro. Look at the gains, bro. So like, low-key, they do have the dream build. Beltreep in particular, he's the inspiration right now. And I do like, and I know it's because Nakaba draws a lot of the muscular men the same, but with especially a comparison of Ironside and Beltreep right next to each other, I do like how not only in his face can you see the sibling resemblance to Escanor, but also in his general build. Like, he does almost look like a just general early series Escanor when he was in his buff state, when he's in his sun state. You can kind of see the build there, the reflection from like the very top heaviness of it. If you look at Ironside's build, it's a bit more balanced, right? Like his arms are a bit leaner. He definitely has that V build, but he doesn't have like the super wide back. But Damon, who is the biological sibling of Escanor, he does clearly have that wide back, those big popping bulbous shoulders, the massive bicep. He has that strong upper body, that wide, strong, like that almost top-heavy upper body that Escanor had when he was in his buffer states. And I do like that you can tell that. Nakaba does keep that fact in mind whenever he draws them. At least seemingly throughout this chapter, we're always going to see Beltreep with that sort of like top-heavy build, which is much more akin to Escanor. We know that Nakaba does draw leaner versions of the characters in different body types, despite them all being muscular with rippling six-pack abs, because everyone has slightly different builds. If you look at Meliodas' build and Bond's build, different. If you look at we'll see another example here with Pelgard in a second. We see all these different builds that Nakaba draws. I think Beltreep's build looks so similar to Escanor's because they're brothers. But it is interesting to see Beltreep essentially try to just go along with the copium, essentially. And this does make sense considering he was infused with chaos longer ago than Pelgard and Ironside. As he says, "He deigned to grant us the very power of chaos, a mighty sword wielded to protect what we hold dear." And naturally, Ironside gets a little bit annoyed and goes, "Don't feed me that line." Sorry, I hope that didn't reflect bad on the mic. "Don't feed me that line. What does it matter if we lose all memory of what we hold dear?" And that is a good point, right? It isn't just the idea that they lost all memory, it's the idea that, well, I'll talk about it in a second. But I do like that Ironside does feel righteously angry, right? And notably, I think it is very important to remember, Ironside only went to Camelot because he wanted to save his wife, because he wants Theodora to live. Very much in the same vein to Pelgard, and I think it's why they took so long to even take and accept the chaos infusion. Camelot wasn't their home. Well, actually, we don't know about Pelgard, but at least for Ironside, it's implied that Camelot wasn't his home. He didn't grow up in the old Camelot, anything like that. He very specifically went there on the promise of hopes and dreams, right? That wish to make sure that his wife made it, make sure that their kid at least made it. He didn't serve Arthur out of liking him or being cool with him or wanting to dap him up. He's like, you have the power to do what I want to do for the people I care about. That's it. Same thing for Pelgard. He's like, the only reason, because I remember when they met Pelgard at the start of part 2, they're like, gang, you could be, or no, even all the way back in part 1, where Percy's like, dude, I know you're not a bad person. Why don't you just come squat up with us? And we could give your king back shots. It'd be great for everybody. Pelgard's like, Percy, you're such a nice, cool kid. Yeah, I got other obligations. I love you. I love my wife more. I was going to make a horrible joke there, I won't. But, that being the case, there's that. And then it gets reinforced at the start of part 2. Where, I think it's Anne who says, like, Pelgard, you're clearly a good person. You're a nice guy. Why don't you just become our ally? And then that's when Pelgard explains the whole Fiona and fake Richard situation. Where he's like, she loves it here. I'm not going to take away her only coping mechanism, and I'm not enough, and I want her to be happy as she can be, even with that fake thing that's not our son. So, like, both Pelgard and Ironside very simply work via obligation. They don't work out of a preference or reverence for Arthur. So I do like that it is Ironside who's being like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter how much power we get, how strong we are, if we don't even remember what we are fighting for. And then it's true, right? It's the idea that fighting without a meaning is purposeless. And even like, well, I'm gonna sound a little bit green here. Even fighting in many ways is kind of purposeless. Like, if you ever gotten into a street fight, that was pointless. There's no reason you ever should have fought that person. If you ever, let's see. When you think about it, I'll be honest. A lot of conflicts fought today in mass are also very much worthless. The reason that's given for them is so regressive and or wrong and or a lie and or bad that, yeah, sometimes even having a reason doesn't justify the fighting. But in their case in particular, it is the idea that they lost all connection to that which they cared about, and they were still fighting. And we see that ultimately, it isn't just Ironside and presumably Pelgard who feel like this. Another person feels like this, as they say, perhaps it's fair to say that we've all been played for fools. And we see Ironside say, Worldane, is that you? And we see Worldane, who everybody was into, and I was looking at a lot of people really like old Worldane. I've seen her called Goraldane. If you don't know what Goraldane would mean, Gilfildane. If you don't know what that would mean, good. I'm glad. I'm proud of you. But with it being the case, a lot of people also want to crack this Worldane. As she says, how many years has it been since we've spoken with all our wits intact? And that is an interesting statement, because that at least confirms that Worldane, maybe not Beltree. Once again, we just don't know how old Worldane is. That's the thing. And I bet if I were to look her up, I highly doubt we have her biological information. Hold on. I need to keep that tab open for a later point. No. I'll just look him up in a bit. It's this thing. I updated my phone, and now it's so weird. I don't. There we go. I have to do that now. Like, that's so dumb. I don't really like this. But that being the case, what was I just about to look up? Yeah, Worldane. I don't think we have her age. Let me see. Chaos Human Hybrid, Holy Knight, Creations. Yeah, we do not have, it doesn't seem like we have her age. But, with it being the case, her saying how many years has it been implies that she's been under the Chaos sauce for a long, long time. Beltree may have been the same way, though. We don't exactly, it has to be more than 16 years, it has to be more than 18 years ago because of Izzy, right? It's implied that Izzy was born and raised in Camelot. Maybe Beltree's in the same similar scenario to Ironside, but I don't know. We don't know where Damon was. But at least for Worldane, it's implied that she was infused for literal years. And she's happy to finally be able to speak like this. And we do find out that Percy's move, it really did move her. As we see, she says, of course, Percival's force has left me on the brink of death. I had it coming too. We must thank Lancelot when we see him. We're speaking now because he temporarily weakened the chaos within us all. So, this confirms two things. Number one, when Percy casts that life spirit removing spell from you, that thing's permanent. I thought, hypothetically, what Chaos did was essentially, like, the Chaos Inner essentially refueled the life spirits inside of her. Like, or no, I thought La Droga de Yor essentially undid that. Because if you'll remember, she was still an old, pierced hag that people still want to crack when she was finished with her time in the Fairy King's Forest. But she had taken La Joga de Yor, and then when we see her come back, she mentions that she used it on herself. I think we see her use it on herself. I don't think Arthur just heals her, or Arthur just heals her. I think she does just fully restore herself with La Droga de Yor. So with that, I had thought, oh, okay, the life spirits that were once removed from her body just came back, right? Or they were replenished, considering she was bulked back up into her current or younger self. But no! It was literally all the chaos. La Joga de Yor may have restored the physical damage taken, but chaos essentially restored her youth and facilitated her probably very few life spirits that remained. As she's still affected. Meaning if Percy ever life banishes you, he essentially puts a scar on you permanently. He's like, or like a marking. And any life spirits, ambient or not, that would like fill up whatever the Worldling's life force is supposed to be, don't. Like they're just like, no, we're not going to do that. And remember, that's been at least a few weeks ago in universe. Percy's been awake for a while now, and his spell is still having that lingering effect, which is preventing her from actually properly recomping. And the idea that Lance only weakened the chaos, did not remove them, is why she's even still alive. The chaos inside her is what's allowing her to stand and move and talk at all. She's actually basically dead. The only reason she isn't, her human side is still dead, essentially, right? It's just that her human facade, her outer skin is being maintained by the little bit of chaos that's in them still. Or not even in them. It's probably the same amount of chaos. It just got beat up a whole lot, so it's weakened. And I do like that detail. Not only that Lance wasn't able to properly remove the chaos, because he likely just didn't know how to do that, because how on earth would you do that? Merlin could, though. Merlin could, but not Lance. So I do like that Lance, once again, he isn't infallible. He still does have inabilities and things that he needs to either develop and get better at, or things he still needs to learn. So that's great equality. But on top of that, I do like the idea of Percy really being set up to, yeah, he's going to be the strongest character by EOS because he's going to do something crazy. If he's already doing this at 18, immediately after some light spirit training, yeah, this guy's going to be cracked. But with it being the case, we see Ironside in his striped pants pajamas stand up and go, why did his majesty even do this? And Worldling flat admits, I don't know. And that is the... I mean, I'll admit, for these full-grown adult characters to not, like, click something together like this earlier, it is kind of sad, but they all had their own motivations, and none of them, like, they're all so reliant on Camelot. I get why, in many ways, they would push anything that questioned them to the side until the specific point. As we see Ironside walk forward, and we see Beltreep, once again with his top-heavy self, I'll go into the body type comparison in a second, but we see Beltreep with his top-heavy self say, he must have a grave reason to. He strove to build an eternal world where anyone could live happily. And we see Pelgard admit that he was willing to trample over all the dignity of his most loyal knights for the task. The king I knew was never as cold-hearted a man as that. So, this is what I'm talking about by body types and differences. But Pelgard is still very, very big and beefy and muscular and strong, but he very much has a strong man build. He does have a bit of punch on him, but look at his arms, look at his build, look at his pecs. Like, he's still he's relatively lean for a guy of his build. He is 264. He is 6 foot flat, but 264 pounds. So he's just straight muscle still. But you can see he has a wide, and I'd still say kind of top heavy. His legs aren't as thick as they could be. So, like, he still has a top heavy build, but it's a wide top heavy build. Meanwhile, Beltreep, he still has, like, the cinched waist, but the very wide back and pronounced shoulders that Escanor usually does. Meanwhile, Ironside, he's well built, but he's lean all around. All of his proportions line up. He doesn't have like that super snatched waist. In fact, you can see it here. We'll compare it with this right here. Note how his waist doesn't like pinch in on itself. It's still like it's more log-esque, which is like a slight outward for the pectorals and stuff like that. He's very much a lean built person, but still well built. Meanwhile, Pelgard has the wide sort of strongman bodybuilder physique, and Beltreep or Damon has the Escanor top heavy, wide, big popping shoulders, big pectorals, cinched waist build. And I do like that we're seeing all these muscular shirtless characters, and they all do have these slightly different builds. Good work, Ryan Akaba. But with that being the case, we see that Pelgard says, and even if we are willing to overlook his actions, if even a single thing went the other way, we would have been striking the very things we swore, striking at the very people and things we swore to protect. And that's the big thing, right? Ultimately, the idea that one thing goes wrong, one thing goes sideways, and their whole motivation, the source of their being, essentially, or like their motivation to be a being at the moment, would have been destroyed by their own hands. In many ways, Percival and the Four Knights save them from themselves. And I think that is a very nice cost to pay, right? Like ultimately, the idea that they're like, yeah, we fumbled the bag really, really hard here. And ultimately, if something went wrong, we would have done the unthinkable. And I do like that this, in particular, like, already Ironside was disillusioned by what he had to do and cast out his own son. Worldane was already clearly disillusioned, as he said, her own wits. But Baltreep, the one guy who's at least somewhat repping King Arthur, he grits his teeth and he begins to sweat a little bit as he realizes that, yeah, Pelgart's right. They would have fried their own kid. Or not their own kid, singular. They would have fried their cherished ones, which is something they obviously did not want to do. And Pelgart says, we have to confirm his true intentions. Which, admittedly, I was getting on their case at first, being like, why would you go talk to the evil Chaos Man that you know is not the evil Chaos Man? But it's likely that they can't leave. I think that's a big thing with Camelot, right? Like, ultimately, if Arthur wanted them to leave, or wanted them to not leave, he likely could prevent them from using one of the portals or stuff like that. And a sort of act of betrayal is sensible to some degree, so, like, it's very reasonable that they still went to go pursue him, even though that isn't Arthur. They should know it's not Arthur. But, with it being the case, speaking of Arthur that isn't Arthur, we meet a man sitting on a throne. And he says, well, welcome back. I can't even recall the last time we spoke, you know? You can hear me, right? Care to acknowledge me? Or... that's not very nice of you. We're technically siblings, born from the same mother. Aren't we, Lady of the Lake? And we see Arthur essentially on the interdimensional chaos Skype call. I don't fully get how this works, but they are literal chaos beings, and both do have extreme raw levels of power. Heck, one did create entire multiple galactic realms, and the other has literally infinite power. So it makes sense that they're able to communicate like this. But it's interesting to see these two communicate like this. And this is where... I'll get into it. I'll get into it in a second. We're getting into the things that I kind of like, but I don't like, but I maybe... I don't know. It's interesting. But we see that Arthur, quote-unquote, says, aren't we, Lady of the Lake? Or, all right. Should I call you our infinite pool of magic? Anyway... I'll ask you to keep this chat a secret from your current vessel. Oh, this is the biggest thing that's so hard for me to overcome. Oh, he's a fraud. Oh, he's a fraud. Okay. So Arthur, that's not really Arthur. He not only called his sis. I'm not sure if it's a big sis or a younger sis. I don't think we have a timeline. Do we have a timeline? I should have checked. I meant to check before recording the review. I want to get the review done. I forget. Who's older? Because, you know, it's Kath and Lady of the Lake. But I'm forgetting. Who's older? The Lady of the Lake come first? Maybe she came first. I'm not sure who came first. But regardless, the siblings are chatting. And very specifically, the reason why it's so hard for me to get behind this guy is because he's a fraud. He's literally begging his sister, who's already coming to ask for help. He's like, hey, sis, we're cool, right? Like you won't tell that big scary strong half fairy man that I'm talking to you, right? And that you're not gonna let him come give me back shots, right, sis? Please keep this a secret from your best. Like, that's the thing. He's putting on such a strong air of like, oh, aren't we, Lady of the Lake? Should I call you infinite pool of magic? Oh, I'm so cool. I'm so haughty. I'm so clean. But you're scared of the 18-year-old who's like biological or chronologically like 15. You're scared of that. You're a bond! Well, he may be like, I think it's 15. I believe it's 15. Like, that's the thing. You're bond, or not Arthur, Cap. But we see that ultimately the Lady of the Lake is like, oh, no need to worry. He never pries into my private life anyway. Which is hilarious considering her private life is being in his belly. Like I'm not sure how much scope or dominion she has now. Like, what do you mean your private life? What are you doing there other than sit around and like watch him do stuff? Like we saw you make commentary, Lady of the Lake. Like, we know you're here. It's just that Lance, we don't always get to see what you're saying to Lance. So you're always yapping, but just to him. So like, I don't know what she does here. And I don't really get how this conversation is facilitated without Lance somehow knowing. Because if you'll remember, Lance is, fused with the Lady of the Lake. It's like, he probably should be able to hear this conversation to some degree as she is speaking, but it could just be like a two-way channel thing. Or maybe it's like a video game where ultimately the Lady of the Lake needs to choose to speak to Lance. If she's just speaking generally inside herself, Lance would have to actively peer into his own mind and his own internal realm in order to hear her. So in this case, since Lance doesn't do that, they're having a private conversation. And we see Arthur saying, Pa ha ha. I guess that's setting up the P thing. But don't you mean he doesn't care about it? And that is a very important point to put on, right? Ultimately, Lance still doesn't really like the Lady of the Lake. Like, obviously, it's Lady of the Lake's fault that he ended up in his scenario anyway. And while it did give him an infinite pool of magic power to help him facilitate everything, it still is, like, not something he's happy about. Because that got Jericho freaking geeking and getting all up in the dirty, dangerous, and diabolical Camelot's gut. So, it is very interesting that Kath is even able to know, hey, come on now. You mean he doesn't care about it? Like, he knows Lance well enough that he's like, yeah, bro, he doesn't peer into your private life, my foot. You don't have a private life. You're in his belly. He just doesn't care about you. And we see that Carther, we'll call him Carther. Carther says, after all, you may look all graceful and calm, but in fact, you're pathologically selfish, egotistical, and incredibly annoying to deal with. And naturally, she gives Big Sister energy throughout this entire chapter, so even if I may have that backwards, I'm gonna call her Big Sis. And she says, what? And we see that Carther says, it takes someone like me, your sibling, in human terms, to put up with a woman like you. So why don't you abandon the human realm and come to me instead? So, we're getting, you know what? No. I won't go into calling him a giga fraud just yet. As we see the Lady of the Lake start to splash her water about. They were first in sort of a neutral area, or at least the area, seemingly the water that they were communicating on was calm at first. But then, at the insult of the idea of her leaving Lance, the water begins to rough and splash. And we know this water presumably still is the physical manifestation of her magic. As she says, I refuse. Why would I ever be willing to associate with my own helpless brother? And that is, unfortunately, it's so true. Why would she team up with a bomb? And we see that Arthur says, I'm a changed man. I want to lead the way for the humans Mother created. So also, if Seven Deadly Sins, for majority of it, was daddy issues, the series, because, the Demon King was kind of the main antagonist, then clearly Four Knights is mommy issues, the series, because, actually, well, there's still a whole lot of daddy issues in Four Knights, but Chaos being motherly, or the mother, like, they refer to Chaos gendered female, right, for mother, it actually is pretty consistent since she's called the mother of Chaos. She was sealed in Mama Hawk. She does birth everything. The thing is, though, it's more so implied that Chaos just creates stuff, right? And, like, creation isn't the same thing as birth. Like, I, as a man, can create, but I cannot give birth as a man. So, like, it is interesting, but with Chaos being consistently contextualized as female, it does play into, like, an interesting overarching theme of, like, motherhood and the power that comes with that. Because if we look at all the mothers of our main cast, even if some of them aren't to the same degree, a lot of them do have extreme positions of power, not only just over their kids, but in their respective areas. If we look at Percival's mother, we don't know her, so that's a poor excuse. But for Nasian's mother, Diane, Queen of the Giants, that's very, very important. Co-ruler of the fairy realm. If we look at Lancelot's mother, Elaine, Queen of Benwick, and also, every power that she has that probably fed into Lance's Hazy Moon. Then we have Merlin, mother of Gawain, who made Gawain and kind of the entire plot. Very, very important character, wouldn't you say? And then we have the mother of Tristan, Elizabeth, the main character, or the, like, female lead of the previous entire series, and also Queen of Leonis, and very, very important, also the strongest goddess we've ever seen, right? So it is interesting that a lot of these, and you know what, funnily enough, it does play multi-layered into it, because just like in the same way that they are responsible for the creation of many different characters who are very, very important, a lot of these mothers aren't really given that same freedom or control that a lot of the quote-unquote men are given in this. What is the Lady of the Lake? Another, not necessarily mommy issues character, she didn't birth anything yet, but she's currently just serving Lance, a man. For Diane, she's the queen, but she serves her king Harlequin, and it's his realm, really. She just happens to live there, and so do some giants. So, Then Elizabeth, she's queen of Leonis, but it's clear that she at least doesn't seem to participate too much in the battle planning or organization, as we saw Meliodas doing that as the king. Like it is weird and weirdly consistent that Nakaba keeps playing up the positions of these mother characters who are still extremely important, extremely powerful, just kind of supporting man. I kind of don't like that. Now I'm thinking about it more. I don't like it because in the same cases here for Chaos, right? The mother of Chaos, the human's mother created. Clearly, Kath is meant, at least I read Kath as male, and it's clear that with the idea that the Lady of the Lake refers to him as a brother, that's typically like a male. So he's using the powers of chaos, right? Arthur was using the powers of chaos. Like all these, like there's so much power in motherhood and womanhood specifically. You can see that with all the different powers that the many mothers of Four Knights have. But they're all just being used for somebody else, used for some man. I don't actually like that all too much. It's weird how, now I'm thinking, it's weird how consistent it is. I don't like that. Huh. As then, this is all just meant to be a section about, like, how Chaos is, like, mother. Chaos mothers everything. But now I'm realizing, like, it's very akin to, like, Lore Olympus in that way. And by proxy, like, just a lot of them, it's very male-centered, but, you know, this is Nakaba, or Nakaba. But, with it being the case, back to the chapter. Arthur says, I'm a changed man. I want to lead the way for the humans that Mother created so they can find happiness. I crafted all of Camelot here, just for that sake. All that power goes to waste in service of a mere human. And this Arthur does seem very, very happy. Arthur does. He seems like such a sweet, joyous 16-year-old boy. And we see that the Lady of the Lake goes, pff. And naturally Arthur's like, sis, why are you laughing at me? It's kind of mean. You're hurting my feelings. As the Lady of the Lake says, so easily revealing your hand like that. I'm amazed you can serve as king at all. And we see her raise her hand, and the many waters that were already swirling around her and getting agitated rise up and begin to tear into Carther. Or, not really. Well, actually, no. Carther may actually be the most appropriate name for this character. As we see, she says, or can you, Cath Palu? And put very important emphasis, right, on the idea that she says, so, no, not this, but I'm amazed you can serve as king at all. Remember that important point, king at all. And also remember the idea that Arthur created Camelot for this purpose, or Carther created Camelot for this purpose, or Cath, as she says, or can you, Cath Palu? The purest embodiment of malice. And notably, I do like how also, that's the thing, I can almost smell what the Rockaba is cooking. I can almost smell what the Rockaba is cooking. And I'm not sure if I like it or if I don't. Oh, this is complicated. As even the Lady of the Lake questions the purest embodiment of malice. She puts it in quotation marks. She doesn't put his name in quotation marks, but she puts the purest embodiment of malice. It's weird. Like, that's what Chaos meant to be. He's meant to be the negative emotions and manifestations and, like, desires and intentions of Chaos all fueled into one singular being. But it is weird, right? Think about how weird that is for what he's doing now. And we see that the Lady of the Lake points out his hypocrisy, right? And she says, you call them mere humans, and you claim to guide them to happiness. Your true feelings are so obvious to me. I have not lent my powers to anyone. They were wrested from me by force. A feat you could never even try. I can only hope you have your fill of being a king while you can. And we see Arthur be washed out of the Skype call. or Cath be washed out of the Skype call. I'll call him Cath, I'll call him Carther, I'll be switching back and forth between the two for good reason. As we'll soon get into. And I do like the way that the two merge. You can see the human eye, and then you can see the cat eye. It's Nakaba cooked fantastically for the art of this chapter. But, with that being the case, we're sort of feeding. Do I go into the fraudulence of it all? Maybe I do. As there's very, very, you know what? No, I won't go into the full fraudulence of it all. We'll build up to just know that one of my biggest issues with Cath right now as an antagonist isn't just the fact that it is Cath. I find Cath boring, and what it does to Arthur not being an antagonist, and why I think that makes him more boring. Just keep in mind that he's a fraud, and we're gonna go into why he's a fraud in many ways soon enough. But with it being the case, he gets splashed out of the Skype call. And he's back in reality. Very specifically without the Chaos Eyes, too. And he's no longer communicating, gets knocked out. As he says, that infuriating woman. I've got to get back at her. And we see as he clenches his one good hand, he hears, "Who were you speaking to just now?" And we see he calms and looks up and says, "Ah, the four evils. You're awake, I see. So, why are you here? And why all this scowling?" And that still is crazy. How on earth were they cool with being called the four evils? Like, does that not, like... Imagine you going to work one day, and your boss assigns you to a team, and your boss is like, "Yeah, you're the very mean bad people. The 8 of you. You're the 8 very mean bad people." Like, I would raise my hand and be like, do we have to be called that? Like, not even gonna pretend that we're gonna be, like, I get what, like, once again, many things make sense in retrospect with this being Kath. And I think, before I go into the fraudulence of it all, I'll go into that, right? Arthur being Carther, or Kath, essentially, being Kath Paluk, makes sense. Not only was it wildly out of character for Arthur to do what Arthur was doing in Four Knights, especially with no context or reason for him being evil outside of, the other species are bad and mean and stupid. Like, it was admittedly a uphill battle, right? That's what I was talking about. Arthur still had a hill to climb when he was supposedly the main antagonist, because his backstory needed a whole lot of justification. We need to see the slow shift, the degradation. We needed something like that. We need to justify Arthur being a villain. But, very specifically, the reason Kath works so well is because Kath is evil. Kath is just a bad person. If he even counts it, he's a bad cat. He's a bad kitty. He's a bad person. So of course he does bad things. There is no complicated moral dilemma behind why Kath does evil things and makes other people who serve him do evil things, because Kath is the literal and living embodiment of evil things. No. Right? Like, so it justifies that. It justifies the consistent Kath imagery that had been showing up throughout the narrative. Like I mentioned, did I show that? Did I show that? I forget see, that's the thing. I'm conflating the review and the live reaction. But essentially, I forget if I showed it or not in this, but I'll show it again as well. Hold on, let me go back. In fact, I know the chapter this time. I know in the review I had to struggle to find the chapter a little bit, but let me see. It's back here at, nope, not a little further back. I think it's 78. 78. 78. It's 78. Nope, no, it's not 78. It's 70. It is 77. But no, it's not even 77. It's even further back to get a clear shot of it. Arthur. There it is. It's this shot. All right, perfect. So chapter 76. Kath has been getting such consistent imagery throughout the narrative, even as soon as Arthur's proper reintroduction into the main narrative. If you'll remember, chapter 76, we literally see Kath imbued on the gauntlet, right? And that's a weird thing for Kath to embody, right? Obviously, I had written it off at the time as, Arthur even justifies it next chapter, or Arthur even justifies the next chapter as a remembrance of youth, a remembrance of his arrogance and how he needs to keep track of that. So Kath being the one to consume his arm, Kath being on his arm, that's how I wrote it off as. But obviously this is some self-glazing, right? Kath puts himself on the armor piece that represents his lost arm. But you know what the thing is though? That does, and this is where the possible we can save this kind of sort of if I squint at it goes into. That'll come into later with this. But it isn't just this, right? This instant where we see Kath here. There's also the super recent instant of a few chapters prior. I believe it's chapter what? It's chapter 211? No, before that, because that's still Lance's backstory. Chapter 2:9? Nope. Even before that, it's probably chapter 207 then. Nope, not chapter 207. It is chapter 206. Yep, 206. There's, and I'm assuming I'm missing even more, but here's another example of Kath imagery. This is just Kath. Let's not even play the game. This is Kath, right here. There's Kath, and then Kath shows up again later on in the chapter, but very specifically in terms of the shape here, right? This is literally Kath's face. This is Kath's eye shape, but with Arthur pupil, and then this is Kath, the face of true monster Kath Paluk Kath and his eye. And Kath has been showing up intermittently and has been hinted at consistently. So I'm not even saying the twist is bad in that sense. And it makes more sense than Arthur being evil just because Kath is innately evil. So the twist was built up to, it makes sense. I can't call the twist bad or that I don't like it on the merits of it doesn't make sense. It does make sense. It makes more sense than Arthur. But it's also lazier than Arthur. But it still is interesting in a way that maybe can save it, that I'll get into in a second. As we see that ultimately Arthur says, or Carther says, "Don't tell me you want to return to the front line right now. You need to take the time to rest, to not struggle. Calm yourselves." And we see that Pelgard wastes absolutely no games. He says, "Sire, can we ask about your true nature?" And naturally Arthur's like, "My what? What do you mean? What are you talking about, true nature? You didn't see the Skype call, did you? What are you talking about? And Pelgard's like, aye, since you're gonna play coy, let's play real with it. Are you truly King Arthur Pendragon of Camelot? And we see that Arthur, or Carther, goes, I'm not sure I follow you. Still, is such a thing all that important? And I do like the ones that have major reactions to this. Both Worldane and Beltreep, the two who had drank the fake Arthur sauce, the Carther sauce, long ago, and had slurped the chaos juice, essentially, both being the ones that had this genuine shocked reaction, right? Worldane seems shocked and almost disappointed, the best she can while she's feeble. But very specifically, Beltreep's whole, oh no! Because he very specifically justified the whole idea of Arthur doing these terrible things because he was Arthur, right? Like, as long as we're still serving Arthur, but Beltreep is finding out that, oh no, you were never serving Arthur, and Arthur's not even hiding it. He's like, oh, well, is such a thing really all that important? Is that really necessary for the Carfax? Because, and notably, I saw something about this. This may be like, this apparently has to do with like not pronouns, like, what is it? Honorifics, I believe? Or like how one refers to oneself. I forget the full explanation of it that I read on Reddit, but we see that Carther says because, not because. And note that he only says because, he doesn't say praying. As he says, because I thought you and I share the same goal, to bring happiness to the people of Camelot. It begins and ends with that, no? Interesting that he says begins. Now, apparently, this whole P thing, I don't think it was an original. This review's already long as I'll get out, and I still haven't even gotten like the main rant part that makes it complicated, so I'm gonna go back and check real quick right now. I'm gonna do that in between reviews as well. Buddy Waddy, I did not. So I'm gonna run to the prequel real quick, and I'm gonna go check on Kath. Does he do this P thing before? I don't remember. Does he do this P thing before? I don't remember. Let me take a look. You're not the one I want to play with? Alright, then let's play. I've already remember some of those time. How did you can't slay me by cutting me up? I would defeat you. Oh, you didn't know. See separatists. Lies, you don't believe me. Just use the power of chaos. No trouble at all. I don't see this P thing. I do not see this P thing from before. So this may be a new mutation thing. Let me see. Let me take a look. I'm trying to figure out if he did the P thing before. I'm sick and tired of everyone always getting. He doesn't use a lot of B words though. Come on now, Arthur. Are you shocked about losing your country or your people? All countries fall eventually. I do remember this speech. I could have been the one to destroy or someone else entirely. Yeah, there's just no B's. In fact, a meteor could have struck. Yeah, so it looks like he just didn't use the word B or like words that start with B that often. I'm warning you to quit fighting the inevitable. No matter which route you take, everyone eventually dies. It goes for humans, animals, countries, mountains, snakes, river. Well, let me pull this over here. We're going well far back. But essentially, what I'm looking for this P pattern, but I don't see. Yeah, he says what a bother, not what a pother. So yeah, this P thing is new to Four Knights, seemingly. Everyone look, Kath stop moving. Yeah, then the fake future. Alright. So I'm not going to spend too much time in it, because we are in the middle of a specific review. But, I don't know why this P thing's happening. But it may once again be a sign of this not entirely being Kath. Just as this obviously isn't Arthur. And we see that he begins to list off their different dreams and their different desires. So he says, for your only wife. And Pelgard even notes the weird, Pagins? Why Pagins? Your darling son and your daughter, and that poor subspecies created by ancient magic. So we see that Worldane used ancient magic to create the lizard people, but we still don't know how long ago she did that. I don't know. At least to me, it was implied that lizard people had like a whole civilization, but maybe she made them recently. I don't know. They seem like kind of old. Like one was obviously a master of magic, Kilbegon. So like, I don't know exactly how long ago or how old Worldane's meant to be. I genuinely have no clue, which feels weird. I don't know. I thought it was meant to be implied that she was like from Bestial and like trained under or with Merlin, but at the same time, we just don't know. Maybe she was trained by current Merlin, learned the ancient magic, because we know that one can create life. Merlin did it, and Gawain. But then it seems like maybe Worldane used that same spell that Merlin did, except she used it to create completely original life with no basis in her, except maybe a bit of her humanity, and then lizards. So I don't know. It is a very interesting thing. But he lays out all their wishes, and then he begins to extrapolate, as he says, all these tiny, ridiculous, garbage wishes, they hardly matter at all. And that's perfect. I can bring all you humans to the very precipice of happiness. And you see his body begin to break and mutate and snap and crackle and pop. Rice Krispies everywhere as Beltreep and Pelgard and Ironside and Worlding all look on, sweating in terror. And he says, and then... Sorry, I'm trying to figure out the voice. I had it in the live reaction, but I'm forgetting it right now. Hold on. No, because that's too deep and gravelly. You can't even understand that. And then I will not leave a trace behind. Wait, no. See, yeah, it's getting too rough. Hold on. Let me take a little sip. Keep tiny little sip. Hold on. And then I will not leave a trace behind as I destroy it all. All of it. Britannia and the very world itself. For that is what I yearn for most of all. I cannot wait to see it all unfold, and hold the faces of all those humans slack-jawed in joy, or stretched into the pale sheets of horror. And we see, they all look upon this mutated, monstrous Scrappy-Doo! You may be like, huh? What do you mean? I'm not the first one to notice this. Admittedly, I was very kindly pointed out by this, and this is why I need to keep this tab open. Tell me that's not Twin M right here. Hold on, look at this. Tell me that's not Twin M. Tell me that's literally not the same guy. That's literally mutated Scrappy-Doo from the first live-action Scooby-Doo movie. That is him. That is him, and that is him. Like I know. And here's the thing: I will readily admit, Nakama did not copy that design at all. He likely just didn't know anything about it. It just looks very, very similar because it's a humanoid dog cat-ass creature. But it's very funny that they look so similar, down to like their general build size, the top heaviness of it all, and their claw shape, like everything. It just looks so similar. But with that being the case, we see that naturally Beltreep asks, "Is this the true King Arthur?" As Kath kind of just floats there, aura farming, and we see that Pelgard goes, "Nonsense! Our true leech would never be this monster." And we see that Kath explains, "You guessed it right. 18 years ago, the real Arthur used the power of chaos to absorb me." There we go, that's the voice. "Foolish of him, huh? What did he think would happen? Installing the cancer inside his own body." Which is true. If we do have to remember, Kath is essentially like a runback of Demon King Piccolo and Kami. Possibly to very similar results. As if you'll remember, the reason Demon King Piccolo even exists is because Kami, many, many years ago, I think it's like, do we get a number in the comics? I think it's like 300 years prior. But essentially, in order to become Guardian of Earth, he had to purge all the evil from his body. Essentially, Chaos did the same thing when he created Kath. If anything, the lack of Kath is why Chaos became a will without will, a power that exists solely for power's sake. Because Kath is essentially the ambition to destroy that Chaos had, in contrast to its ambition to create. So, when he had cast it out, it was fine. But Arthur did essentially take in the evil and thought he could overwhelm it. Because he's stupid. He should have at least very specifically just absorbed the power Chaos controlled, or the power that Kath had consumed from his arm, and then spat out Kath himself. But I will give a pass to the Arthur of 18 years prior. I'll give a pass to the Arthur of 18 years prior. Very specifically, because he was so new to the Chaos powers. He had an epiphany in order to devour Kath back, but he likely didn't think or have the control to avoid, Kath eating him from the inside out. So, it's fitting that Arthur was stupid, but once again, we'll get into the conflict I have with this in a second. But even though I'm kind of okay with it, we're going to get through the chapter and I'm going to go back and explain everything. But we see that he says, "Well, this happened. I stole that body and the chaotic power inside. My only regret is that woman, Merlin, who separated us just before I could swallow everything up. I'll save them both for some time later. For now, why not enjoy what we have?" And we see, the Chaos is taking them all back over. They're seemingly even more further lost in the Chaos sauce, as they don't even have eyes anymore. The eyes that grew out of Pelgard have closed once again, and they sealed themselves back up. But now him and Ironside have all black eyes. Not even just black sclera like Chaos typically does, but all black eyes, no pupils, and dark veins running down their face. For anyone who watched Ben 10 Classic, if you'll remember when Ghost Reap possessed people, it's basically those same dark lines that came across their faces. Usually they would go down. Ironside, or no, Beltreep and Worldane seemingly don't have those black eyes, but Worldane seems to have regained her youth a bit here. More life force or chaos force has been replacing her life spirits, and Beltreep once again also just has the black skull rare. So presumably they are amped once again. The chaos that was inside them or lingered inside them was fully reinforced by being back in the presence of the original source of said chaos inside them. But there are important things to note here. Cat did not eat all of the chaos inside Arthur, so the Arthur we see still does have some chaos, but clearly not enough to actually do anything, obviously. And we see, ultimately, Cat says, "And indeed, I'm sure all of you will rejoice for me tomorrow, when I'm wedded to Guinevere at the ceremony, won't you?" And that's the end of the chapter. Who cares about Guinevere? I don't. But let's talk about the complications of this chapter. In fact, before I talk about the complications of this chapter, especially after my reaction to last chapter, and my very negative reaction to the reveal of last chapter, I'm gonna do this. I'll do it nice and slow. Nice and slow. We're just gonna leave the tip in. In fact, we're just gonna leave the tip in a little bit. Look at that. We got nothing but the tip in. And we're gonna I'm kidding. We're gonna make the chapter worthy. You may be like, huh? Pennsylvania, 1, why were you so freaky this review? And 2, why we making this chapter worthy? Why? It's the potential man of it all. Because here's the thing. There are a few things that are sticking out to me that had me going, okay, this may be the potential man of twists and not a twist I actually fully despise yet. Number 1, as I mentioned earlier, as many people pointed out, technically, Cath being Arthur, Carther being a thing, makes more sense than anything other from what we had established so far. I don't think that's a good excuse. I think Nakaba could have done the work to justify Arthur's evilness, or if not even justify it, you could still have Cat be a prevalent part of Arthur's evilness, but have Arthur still be Arthur, right? Like, you didn't have to super twist it so that Arthur was actually, Arthur's just a sweet little guy, you know? Because here's the thing, right? I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say a word. I'm gonna say something, and some people are gonna disagree with me, and that's perfectly okay. It's alright to have the wrong opinion. I'm kidding. But I'm gonna say something. It's gonna make some people very, very upset. Arthur is a boring, bland, dumb, stupid. Well, not dumb, stupid. Well, he is actually dumb, stupid in some ways, but still, he's a victim. He's literally Merlin's victim. But there are many things about Arthur. But if there's one thing I have to say about Arthur, if I had to sum him up in one word, it's that he's boring. Arthur has, and always, at this point, pretty much always will be boring to me in particular. I like Arthur in original Seven Deadly Sins enough. He's a fine enough character, but if you had to ask me, is he in my top 5? No. Is he in my top? No. Is he in my top 50? No. Is he in my top 20? Let me think. If I'm limiting myself to just the Seven Deadly Sins characters originally. Because we just saw the real Arthur for the first time last chapter, so we don't have much for Four Knights Arthur. So I'm limiting myself to original Seven Deadly Sins characters, and how much I like them. I like all the sins more, even though I have issues with Merlin. Do I like literally all the Ten Commandments more? The only commandment I like less than Arthur is like Grey Road, but I like Melascula, I like Galland, I like Mariari, I'm confused their name, did a ship name. I like Monspeed, I like Dariari, I like Zeldris, I like Esterosa, I like Brain? I like Fraudrin, I like Zeldris, I like Right? I don't like Grey Road though. And well, is that 9? So like Grey Road's whatever. Grey Road's a filler character, but like I like all of them. So that's a 9 plus 7. So 9 plus 7 is dumb stupid 16. I like all 4 of the Archangels more, but then let's subtract 1 because like Esteros and Mael are the same character. So let's subtract 1. So I'm at 19. I actually like Chandler and Cusack more than I like Arthur in the original series, just because I think they're more interesting. I believe they have more cool ties to the lore and stuff like that, with their role in Meliodas and Zeldris' past. So like Arthur's not even a top 20 character for me. I could probably keep going. Actually, no, I can keep going because I like Jericho more. I like Gila more. I like Hauser more. I like Gildan more. I like Hendrickson more. I like Dreyfus more. There's so many characters. Like Arthur's not even a top 25 character to me. This is me going off the top of my dome of characters I like more than Arthur. Once again, I'm thinking of just Arthur in his role in Fortnite, in Seven Deadly Sins original, because we didn't meet Arthur in Fortnite until last chapter, right? Arthur's a really boring character. He's too perfect. He's too he's too Gary Stu-esque. Oh yes, this perfect, powerful king can do everything right until he does everything wrong, almost gets fried with Excalibur, then gets pierced by Excalibur because he got played by Goatsack, and then sounds so wrong. It sounds so bad. But he got played by Goatsack, stabbed himself, and then, oh, now he's the king of chaos and everything's perfect. Except, oh no, he was stupid enough to eat the cancer, and bada bing, bada boom, now he's nothing but the sad old man. A sad older man with a beard and no arm. Womp womp, I don't care. Arthur's boring. Do you know why I had Arthur when I thought I had Carther as top 1 Seven Deadly Sins major antagonist? When it came to Fortnite specifically, when I still thought it was Arthur himself, maybe just being influenced, it's because it made Arthur interesting. I like the idea of this perfect goody two shoes character due to years of reflection and maybe the voices in his head and the chaos magic and his new biases being increased thanks to being infused with chaos, and who knows, maybe even a little bit of Cath's influence on, like, once again, the creature on his shoulder, the snake in his ear just whispering. I like that idea that he fell down this dark path and, like, he went down this way of darkness and he started to resent certain things, and, like, the complications that came with Arthur being the main villain were really, really interesting, and I promise you they could have worked. Making it Cath is lazy. I'm not gonna, as much more, this is gonna sound crazy, as much more sense as it makes for all of Carther to be Cath, it makes Arthur less interesting because Cath is boring. That's the same issue I had with Cath. Cath was a better character when he wasn't the final villain. I would say he was a better character when he wasn't the final villain. As much as I do like his speech, very specifically, the speech here. This speech does stick out as like my one favorite moment of Cath, right? All countries fall eventually. Even if the Demon Lord and Seven Deadly Sins hadn't done it, I could have been the one to destroy it. Or perhaps someone else entirely. In fact, a giant meteor could have struck and wiped it off the map. Or it could have sunk into the sea and vanished. I'm saying it's all the same. I'm warning you, quit fighting the inevitable. No matter which route you take, everyone eventually dies. That goes for humans, animals, countries, mountains, forests, lakes, rivers, stars, and even gods. So, like I do like that, like, almost nihilistic view of the world. I do like his manner. Like, that's the thing. I like Cath in many ways, shapes, and forms. And I understand why some people like Cath more than Demon King. Once again, like I mentioned, I had a discussion about this on stream. And I think it'll be 2 streams ago, because, like, I'll be referencing, like, a stream before, because this is not going to go up until Sunday, but it's going to be up earlier for Patreon. I don't know, it's going to be funky timeline-wise. But essentially, I don't really like Cath all too much either. I thought Cath was boring because Cath is just evil, right? Oh, I'm all the negative things of Cath. I want to eat people and destroy everything. Yay! A primordial force of nature that just wants to destroy everything and has no internal character motivation. Oh, how interesting. I find that boring. I don't really like any of these big, bad, primordial, I just exist to destroy because I want to destroy kind of characters. I think they're boring. So I think Cath is boring. I think Arthur's boring because he's too perfect. He doesn't do anything wrong and he's just a victim. And I feel bad for Arthur because he's a victim of Merlin, but, like, oh no, I don't like a character I feel bad for. Not even top 25. Maybe not even top 30. Once again, I could probably keep going. If I were to make a tier list of Seven Deadly Sins characters, I don't think Arthur would probably even crack top 30. Maybe he may crack top 35, though, because I literally don't think I can name 35 characters. I mean, I could probably get have thought about it real hard, but I'm not going to go too deep into that. And heaven forbid we start including Fortnite characters, Arthur's going to fall even lower. There are like 15 different characters that have been introduced in Fortnite exclusively that I like way more than Arthur. Yes, all the 4 evils count, but with it being the case, the reason, in spite of me being like, this twist is lazy, I don't really like it. You could have still told an interesting story. You could have included Cath in a different way narratively without actually having it just be Cath, be the main villain again. No one cares about Cath. I don't care about Cath. I don't care about fighting him. There is hope and cope. And the hope and cope comes to me with Carther existing at all. Isn't it weird that Arthur or Cath, Palug, as the Lady Lake questions, the purest embodiment of malice, the great destroyer, the same Cath Palug who went out of their way to be like, I'm warning you to quit fighting the inevitable. No matter which route you take, everyone eventually dies. It goes for humans, animals, mountains, lakes, forests, rivers, and even gods, right? Isn't it weird that he's, like, creating Camelot at all? Remember, he basically got what he wanted. If you'll remember, his motivation in the original series is to just devour. It's really devour Cath and devour everything and destroy everything else. He says, as Arthur says to him, so you're telling me I might as well let you eat me and be done with it? Bingo! Right answer, Arthur. Like, he did. He got inside Arthur's guts. He ate. And sure, he didn't get all of it. But as he even admits, oh, I'm mad at Merlin, but I could go get her at any time, right? Like, wait, where is it? Where did he say it? You guessed it, foolish aunt, what do you think would happen anytime like kiss his own body? Well, this happened. I stole that power, and I stole that potty and the chaos power inside. My only regret is that woman Merlin who separated us just before I could swallow everything up. So, like, he has a majority of the chaos power. Not all of it. Presumably, it's probably like an inverse ratio, right? Where he probably got everything but an arm. It's now vice versa, where like he has he got the arm prior, and now he has everything but the arm, right? In terms of like just ratios of chaos power he likely has in comparison to Arthur. Though Arthur probably has even less, because he still doesn't have an arm and he's aging. But, with that being the case, isn't it weird that he got everything he wanted? He literally says, I'll save them both for some time later. Even though that's the remnant of his chaos power, the last thing he wanted. Like, this isn't Cath. This isn't, as the Lady Lake says, and even questions, the purest embodiment of malice. For someone who is so originally focused on destruction, annihilation, the evisceration of everything through consumption and destruction, he's doing a whole lot of creating, right? Like, it's his fault that Gallant is multisolar. It's his fault that we have Galactic Gallant. Think about that. If it wasn't for Cath creating all of Camelot with its multiple starry skies, countless planets, this, that, the third, multiple galactic bodies, and then upscaling the verse to infinity, we wouldn't have multisolar Gallant. We wouldn't have multi-galactic Gallant. Isn't that weird? Why is he doing all this creating? And why is he playing the long game? If he could and would just eat everything like he initially intended to destroy everything, why isn't he? The only reason he didn't before, if you'll remember, is because he was sealed by the Goddess Clan, right? Like he was sealed away by the Goddess Clan, and a lot of his power was locked away then. And then, of course, he just didn't have the power to do so before. He was created by chaos as all the malignant destructions and intentions of chaos and all that. But he just didn't have the power to execute what he wanted to do. But now he has more than enough power. If he was able to create all of these separate realms, Onfwin alone is a greater creation feat than anything we see in the original series. Just based on the fact that we see a Starry Night Sky in it. I know, the Supreme Deity and Demon King also created worlds of Starry Night Sky. But still, in terms of what we know, Onfwin just on screen from all the different Starry Night Skies we've seen of it, that's still one of the greatest creation feats, and it's just one realm of many. Of seemingly endless realms. With multiple, like, that's so much creation to do. For a being so heavily focused on destruction. So what happened? And not only that, I want you to note something. Look at Cath's design. Look past the scrappy do of it all, right? Look past the scrappy do of it all. Isn't it weird that he still has the cowlick? Right? Like, why does he have that? What's with the sweepy? He still has a piece of Arthur inside of him. He's been infected too. As much as he was a cancer to Arthur was clearly a cancer right back because he's still affected. And on top of that, I think he's being influenced by his mama. When you think about it, why does he care at all? I'm a changed man. I want to lead the way for the humans Mother created so they can find happiness. And obviously this is a lie that, the Lady Lake calls him out on. But still, he is kind of doing that. Admittedly, it's all to build up for the despair, but the original Cath wouldn't care about build up. He wouldn't care about that. He wanted to eat and destroy everything. He would consume every human inside his realm, and then consume the human realm, and then consume the demon realm, and then consume the fairy realm, and then consume the celestial realm, and then consume everything. But he's not doing that. He's playing this weird, exaggerated long game. He's using proxies. Remember, Cath wanted to destroy it all himself. He wanted to annihilate everything on his own. That was his whole thing. But now in this case, he's not. And speaking of, remember Cath's original design. When untainted by Arthur, and presumably untainted by Chaos, just wielding Chaos' raw power, he was a lot more bestial. 8 separate legs, a multiple pronged tail, multiple tongue. Well, no, there may have been one, but still one tongue, large gaping mouth with multiple different fangs, all that. But then look at current Cath's design. Obviously, him taking on this form is meant to reveal the twist, right? But note how he is definitely still bestial. He still has 8 separate limbs. You can see 1, 2, 3 arms here, and then obviously all these little extra arms and spikes and stuff like that, and then his 2 legs. But he's a lot more humanoid, right? Like, he literally has abs. you look at this Cath, right? Where are the abs on this Cath, right? Where's the humanoid in this? This is a beast. This is a beast entirely focused on destruction and consumption. This, though? This is a beast that's, like, tainted. Ruined by what is consumed in a way. The original Cath wouldn't have waited. The original Cath wouldn't have played games. The original Cath would have gone to eating everything, destroying everything. It wouldn't have created countless realms with multi-galactic distances. It made all that. Why? Because I think it's been infected. I think Cath, in a way, has played himself. From dancing and playing with the humans to building up to the humans' despair. And even then, note what he says here towards the end. All the way here, he says, then I will not leave a trace behind as I destroy it all of Britannia and the very world itself. For that is what I yearn most of all. But note how he says all that, only to end it with, very specifically, and oh, when the faces of all those humans, slack-jawed in joy, are stretched into pale sheets of horror. Well, if you're destroying everything, Britannia, and the very world itself, then there aren't going to be any humans left. Where are they going to exist? In the void, which you're going to destroy too? The very world itself? Buddy, those two things can't correlate. So what on earth do you mean? Almost as if you don't actually plan to destroy it all anymore. Kathy Waffy? Hold on a second. And not only that, it doesn't even stop there. Because let's go a little bit deeper into it even for a second further. The P thing. Initially, I thought that was just a piece of Cath dialogue that I'd forgotten about. But at least from the little quick glimpse I did into the past during this very review, that doesn't seem to have been a thing. The P thing. And note how inconsistent it is, right? Because I thought you and I shared the same goal. But then to bring, not to pring. And then I think he literally does say pring later, right? Yeah, I can pring all you humans into the precipice of happiness. Does he use another B? Does he use another B somewhere? I will not leave a trait. No, there we go. Another inconsistency. I can't stretch fully, but here he doesn't say behind. He says, I will not leave a trace behind. Once again, it's inconsistent. Cath is chaotic, and not in the way that he initially was before, where he was all about destruction. No, he's chaotic in the sense that he's not really making sense. This P thing, it's not something he even did before. Why? Because I think he's been jacked up. I think ultimately, by consuming Arthur and Chaos in the way he did, he's being corrupted in a very interesting. Unironically, I think he's accidentally, Piccolo Gohaning himself. And Arthur is the Gohan in this analogy, but imagine if Gohan was, mostly nibbled on by Piccolo instead of, just bonding with him over the years' time. Right? That's kind of what happened here. At least that's what I'm viewing it as. And that's why I still have hope. Arthur, or Carther, or Cath isn't Cath anymore. He's some weird amalgamation. This fascination with humans is clearly somewhat genuine, right? Where before he didn't seem to care. He was like, I'll just consume and destroy everything. I just need to eat you right now, because you have the rest of the power that will allow me to do that. No, he's very specifically focused on not fairies horror, not giants horror, not demons, not goddesses, humans' faces twisted in horror as he destroys everything, while their faces are imbued with joy. I think that's a mix of both Chaos and Arthur. I think Chaos, speaking of mommy issues and the power that they imbue, I think Chaos has kind of jacked up their kid. I mean, in a good way, obviously, but I think Chaos has sort of infected, in a weird way, because obviously, Cath ate him, but I think Chaos has infected Arthur, infected Cath, just as Arthur infected Cath. With Chaos, it's a lot more obvious, right? You could see that Cath isn't maintaining their original, more cat-like form. They're mutating with all these extra different pieces and tentacles and multiple different faces and eyes. They're barely maintaining a consistent physical form themselves when they easily did it prior with only a piece of Chaos. But now that they've absorbed a majority of Chaos, they become a lot more monstrous, a lot more bestial, but not bestial in the same way. At the same time, they retain that humanoid shape because of Chaos's fascination with humans. And I think that's what saves the twist for me. I've done all the extrapolation, why, okay, this is kind of working, this is kind of working, this is kind of working, because I think Nakaba is going down a way to make Cath a more interesting character. When I first read the text spoilers on stream, I was like, this is whack, this is buns, this is garbage, I'm not going to like it. And I'm still not the biggest fan of it just yet. This is why I'm saying this is the potential man chapter. I may come back to this chapter years later and be like, maybe the twist was worth it, maybe the cooking was worth it. Because the very existence of Carther implies more than just Cath. This isn't Cath that we once knew. This is a weird combination of Cath, Arthur, and Chaos in terms of their motivations, their personalities, their abilities, everything. That's all that there is merged into one. And that's interesting. Is it as interesting as Arthur himself as being evil? No, because we're still essentially building from the ground up with a character who barely had anything outside of one cool speech, and another character who literally had nothing. Literally, no, we've not had a single speaking line for Chaos just yet, unless you count all the Hawk Mama lines of it going, Beep. Well, actually, no, I think that's Seven Deadly Sins Dragon Band. Whatever Hawk Mama roars in the original anime. But that's it. We actually haven't had a single line for Chaos. It's just been spoken about, not spoken by itself. So, we're essentially starting from scratch, in a way. But we still do have all of Carther's characterization throughout Four Knights. We still do have all of that. We still do have the bits and pieces of Kath's characterization, a little bit we get of it. We still do have Chaos's motivation. We have stuff enough that even though we are starting from scratch, quote unquote, we still have a lot of build. We still have a solid foundation. And I'm interested to see how that foundation grows. So, overall, that's why I say the chapter's still worthy. Even though I don't really like the twist on its base concept, that is a expectations versus what I'm getting thing. So now I'm more willing to work with what I'm getting, as much as I would have preferred what I had thought it was. Now, to finally address the thing I've been talking about for a while, the reason Kath is still going to struggle as an antagonist, or Carther. I think Carther is ultimately the most appropriate name for him, because it fits in the Kath, it fits in the Arthur, and it fits in the chaos of it all. But the reason Carther is still going to struggle a lot as an antagonist, specifically the main antagonist, so why he still doesn't give off final villain energy, is because he's a fraud. He's a bum, and he's garbage. He has a majority of the power of chaos. A majority of it. Like I said, it's probably just an inverse ratio of what he had before. He had like a forearm worth, or an arm worth. Now, he has like a whole body's worth, minus the arm. But he's still getting sunned by his sister. He has their mother in his belly. And he's still getting sunned by her. And he's still begging her for help. Begging her to leave the big scary human man who's been bullying him this entire time. No matter who Carther was. Hold on. No matter who Carther was, Carther can never, and I mean never, escape what happened to him. And just in case you forgot what happened to him, don't worry, I'm more than ready and willing to remind you. The main thing that happened to him, he can't escape this. He cannot escape that Lance still has dog-walked him. He's stolen all of his aura. Lance has reached deep into Carther's pockets and stolen all of his aura already. He's still in an aura deficit. He still isn't strong enough. What Carther will never escape. Let me go to it. Let me run away to that place that I know. There we go together. But here it is. We will never escape looking one of our four, count them, four titular characters directly in the face and being like, you are far too strong. His aura's gone. It's gone. It's annihilated. It's over. He's fried. And that's the big thing, right? As much as I'm willing to work on a character front with Carther, I'm like, okay, it's not what I wanted, but there are many times where I got things I didn't really want, but ultimately I ended up appreciating them a lot in the long run. So I can work with the twist itself. What Nakaba still needs to do is make me believe that Carther is a threat, because right now he's just not. He's worthless. He's buns. He's not getting any new antagonists. He's just empowering the four evils again. Oh, how great did that work last time? They all got one tapped. By one. Count him, one of the four titular characters. He's begging his sister to come help him. Even though he has a majority of the god of this universe in his belly. He could go get Merlin and Arthur at any time, though. Well, clearly he hasn't. It's been 18 years. 18 years. And he still hasn't gotten Arthur. He still doesn't know what that is. He doesn't know where Arthur is. He doesn't know where Merlin is. He was separated in the first place despite having the majority of the power of the chaos. He's a bum. He's a fraud. And I think that's the big issue. I still can't take him seriously. As much as I would clown on the Demon King from a writing perspective, right? And Carther still is infinitely more interesting than the Demon King from a writing perspective right now. I will give that. I will give this to the Demon King. The Demon King was well established and well set up as a threat that was beyond our cast. For the longest. Of course, the final Demon King fight came around and suddenly everyone was darn near God level. But, darn near, above, and or God level. But, for a majority of the narrative, the Demon King, even once we knew of his existence, was just untouchable. He was this transcendental being. And ultimately, every single antagonist sort of like hyped up the Demon King even more. From the Ten Commandments, to Zeldris, to Chandler, to Cusack. All these demonic antagonists just made us realize, oh, the Demon King is this league above. We literally see the Demon King bully Meliodas and Bond for multiple decades alongside Wild. Like, we get this solid idea that even if the Demon King is boring as all get out as a character, They still were a physical, actual threat, and I couldn't call the Demon King a fraud until he started getting bullied. And even then, he didn't get bullied until like the last few chapters of his appearances. Like that is notably, he got bullied under specific circumstances too. So that works. The main thing that Carther needs to overcome, the main thing that Carther needs, he needs to be a threat of power. He needs to stop being a fraud. He needs to stop running to his big sister or little sister and be like, hey, I know I already ate all of mommy, or nearly all of mommy, but can you come help me and stop making that one mere human really, really strong enough to one-shot me? Like, if he gets a sacred treasure, I'm kind of fried, sis. Please come help me. I can't have this. That's fraudulent behavior for our main antagonist. I cannot have this man sitting here being sunned by literally everybody. Not everybody, but like, that's the thing. It's clear that the sins don't even like fully worry about him. And it's clear that he himself is scared, right? Despite all the power that he has. Once again, there are no stipulations or limitations put upon him and his control of kids, other than the fact that he doesn't have all of it just yet. But the sins are still a threat to him, right? The man hasn't annihilated the fairy realm. Why? Oh, well, King and Diana are there. You know, the same Diana that got one shot by World. Yeah, King and Diana are there. Ooh, let me not fight them. Oh, he's only taking pieces of Britannia. What piece has he not taken? Leonis. Oh, because Meliodas is just that strong. He's still scared. Benwick seems entirely untouched. Kind of strange. Oh, because Bond's there. He'll keep taking random fodder villages. He'll even take a whole kingdom right next to Leonis, but heaven forbid he takes Leonis itself. Whoa. That would bring Melon to Camelot. We can't bring Melon to Camelot. He'd come with me. That's the thing. I need Arthur, Carther, Cath, whatever you want to call him. I need him to be an actual threat power-wise. I need him to. You've already given the character conditions for why, if he was a threat power-wise, why he wouldn't just immediately annihilate everything. You've already done that. You've already done that well enough. That's fine. Just make Carther threatening. That's the one weakness. As much as I'm willing to buy into the character work behind this twist, as much as I can see a vision on that, until Arthur actually feels like a threat, I will always believe he's, one, not going to be the main villain, and two, I'm never going to take him seriously. I can't take this guy seriously. He's a bum. He's a booty water bum, and that's going to haunt him for time immemorial until this gets fixed. So I'm hoping it gets fixed. That's my one hope. I hope somehow he gets buffed. Which is crazy to say, because I guess I would just have to have him eat the rest of Arthur, which we could still play into the whole idea of like that would corrupt him even more. But still, let him eat the rest of Arthur. Do something. Arthur's not going to do anything but sit around and be the cool, strong, perfect king guy. I don't care. Boom him. Yeah, have Cath eat the rest of him. Anything to give Cath some manner of threat. Carther some manner of threat, because right now he's just threatless. Oh, but Pencil, only one of the four knights is still enough. Lance is more than enough then. That's still enough of an issue. Lance is more than enough, and apparently the other four knights could still hard counter the four evils, even as is. So I need Camelot, I need Carther specifically to be some sort of threat. And once we get that, I can maybe work with this twist a whole lot more. In fact, I'm more than willing to work with it. I think I'm more than willing to work with it now. Now that I've had the chapter, and I've thought about it, and I've talked it out more, I'm more than willing to go with this twist. I just need more from Carther himself as an antagonist. So right now, he's a really interesting character concept and interesting character execution. As an antagonist, though, he's kind of buns. He's kind of buns. He's like a Twigo tier antagonist. Amazing character. Power-wise, garbage. But, with it being the case, if you've made it all the way to the end of this chunker of a video, I hope you guys enjoy. But I want you to leave. Let's make this work. Let's make this work in the comment section down below. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, you're going to have a Patreon down below. You support me for as low as $1 a month. Get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member to the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the 30-minute live reaction to this very chapter and every previous chapter and every future chapter. Ad-free variations of all my videos. Early ad-free access to all of my videos. And I mean all of them. I mean all of them. I'm talking all the videos on this channel and all the videos on the second channel that have the reaction, which is linked in the description down below, where I cover reaction videos of all types, or I do reaction videos of all types. On top of that, you will get unedited versions of the chapters. Essentially, where the old style reviews, where I'd have like the chapter up normally so we could read it and discuss it together like I like to do. Yeah, that's only going to be for Patreon members now, because I am scared of the big tube. They keep trying to blow my channel up, and I do not want that to happen. So only Patreon members will get like full regular versions of these videos, unedited, no ads, this, that, and the third. Every other video is going to look a little bit jacked up. and pages of members get that exclusively. And on top of that, you get your name listed at the end of literally every single video I make. Videos here on the main channel, videos on the second channel. Your support is so important. I always appreciate that. It will get listed at the end of every single video. And on top of that, if you are a $3 member or higher, you don't just get your name listed, you get your name read aloud at the end of every singular video that I produce. So there is that as well. And of course, if you just want to do a one-time donation for a short video, that could be 5 beans to the Ko-Fi, or you want to do a one-time donation for a longer video, that can be 25 beans to the Ko-Fi. It will be linked in the description down below. And now I want to thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off. Alright, lady, thank you to our sketch tier members: Run Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zera, Brandon Payne, J2MA, Guilmi, Buddha Uda, Enzo, Swift Strike, Superflame Zero, Yuki Ally, Azo2404, Strike Man, Grim, Ollie, The Boy, Corey Watson, Damon Brown, Magic, CCC, Armando Furen, Dino, Heath Nelson, Hector Gonzalez, Black Sage, Zapro, Tim Thomas, Alex Kenny, Kaving, Julian Perez, 8SOA, Akulade Babatunde, Union I, RXN, Nevis97, Sheesh King, Logan Guzman, Karina Hernandez, Window Life, Dead Meme, Karudir, Reyna, Christian Carter, Jagoda, Keon Stewart, and Donovan McIntosh. Then, I'd like to even thank you to our line art tier patrons: A+A, Kevin Encarnacion, Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Dread Zoen, and Norgazi Andasov. Then, I'd like to even thank you to our ink tier members: King RTX and Shrimpo the 4 Shrimp 06. And I'd like to even thank you to our digital art tier members: J Warrior and AZ Void. And I'd like to give a final thank you to our colored art tier patrons: Walking Munoz and Walking Munoz.